Okay, well, I think we can start, and those who join will join. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the QS World Merit webinar dedicated to Sustainable Development Goals and the introduction to the university agenda. Now, we have very limited time today, as always, and we didn't want to take too much of your time, so we wanted to make it efficient and to the point. I'll very briefly I would like to introduce our lovely expert today, and then Isabela will tell a little bit more about her background and what they've been doing at IE, Instituto de Empresa. But before we do that, I would really appreciate if all our lovely participants could, help us engaged and either keep the cameras on or put your photos as your what do you call them, avatars, right? So that at least we see who is with us. The plan is that after the introductions, hellos and welcomes, we'll give the floor to Isabela to share the best practice examples from Instituto de Empresa, and then we will ask all of you guys to break out into different rooms. Isabela will give you a challenge to work on, and you'll have 15 minutes to do so, to work on the challenge to find a solution as a group. And then we'll give each one of you a couple of minutes to share the outcomes on behalf of the group. We'll discuss these outcomes, and we'll hopefully, after this session, we'll be able to identify some tools, frameworks, and case studies that will help each one of you to go back to your organizations and initiate change, initiate your contribution, your impact on achieving sustainable development goals. Now, in our chart, and I can see that after I've tweaked some of the elements, our welcome messages are gone. I'm sharing a link to the Padlet. Please welcome to join it. Just double click anywhere on your screen and introduce yourself, your organization, your country, where you're joining us from today, and also share your expectations. What is it that you would love to learn at today's sessions? And maybe what is it that you would love to learn going forward? Now, on this note, Isabela, over to you. So please tell us a little bit about your background. What is it that you do at Instituto de Empresa, and what is it that we're going to be talking about today? And I think you need to unmute yourself, my dear. Sorry.
Yeah, here, I'm back. Thank you, Zoya, first of all, for inviting me to be here. It's a pleasure, and thanks to all of you for joining. And I hope we make it an interesting session. And if not, you can raise your hands and tell me move faster, and we jump into from one topic to another. I'm Isabela Alcazar. As Zoya says, I'm part of it's IE University. It started back in 1973 as Instituto Empresa, and now as we are a global university, we've merged that and into IE. It's just IE, no? So, and my background is a scientist. I've been 10 years working as a pure researcher in a lab, pure science. Then I've been for another 10 years, working, helping scientists start their companies and trying to bridge the gap between science and the market needs. I think there's a virtuous cycle that never completely or isn't complete many times, because there's a kind of disconnection there. And lately I've to be a little bit quickly to go a little bit quickly, I've joined IE University 3 years ago to start the sustainability office, and this is kind of this past 3 years, and also the previous ones is what I came to share with you here today. I'm passionate about sustainability, as you can imagine, and I'm sure that many of you share this passion with me. If not, you wouldn't be here. I'm going to share my full screen so that if we jump from, for example, the Padlets or whatever, that you can follow me. So I'll start here. Can you all see my screen? Yeah.
Yep, it's all good.
Okay. I'll go directly to the purpose of iUniversity. I think it's important, and there's a trend lately with purpose-driven companies. We saw this trend starting like 10 years ago in the US, and it's something that's increasing, you see. And I think every institution needs to have a purpose. We defined ours during 2020, and it was fostering positive change through education, research, and innovation. Because I think that education is great, but why? No, why am I providing my students with content and with knowledge? No, and I do think that if we bring a meaning into what we do, it's good for the organization, so that we all can focus on the same goal and walk together there. I like to say that any organization is a big boat, and it has many rowers. We need all of the rowers to be aligned and with the same rhythm. No, can you visualize those big boats that of course they are no longer there? They were actually slaves. That's not good. We don't go want slaves in an organization. Don't get that message. So first of all, any organization has its peculiarities. Let's say it's authentic, it's unique, and each of us need to understand where is it that we are, and how much we can do, and what is it that we can do. So what we did basically was a due diligence of what has been happening at our university, which started as a business school, Instituto de Empresa, in 1973. What is the culture? No? And we see that during the last almost 50 years, there have been several key moments in which we have kind of introduced sustainability in its widest concept into the organization. Back in the 1980s, we already had an environment and business chair, being a business school. That was at that moment. Business ethics, we were part of the, actually we started the part of the first signatories of the Global Compact from UN in the early 2000s, 2003. So there's a history of sustainability before me. So sustainability is not about me. It's about all of the people that have embraced it, not just now, but all of the previous years. We trying to understand what is it that our people wanted to do. We did a couple of questionnaires. We launched one of them for our students, and another one for our faculty members. And basically we wanted to understand what is it that they wanted to do, what motivated them the most. No, so we saw there was a kind of concurrence in SDG number 4 and the 13 as the ones with the highest motivation. And actually in the one-to-one meetings, I did have a lot of one-to-one meetings with people, all kinds of people, and it was funny, from the cleaning ladies to the deans, and anyone was important, because all of the members of the staff, faculty, I mean, the whole community has a say and understands things differently depending on their position, their role, their day-to-day activities. No, so hearing and incorporating those messages, for me, it was very helpful, at least. No, so we could have focused, and we saw, for example, that Oxford University, Said, was focusing on finance. Manchester University was focusing on social action. So several universities were focusing on, well, an aspect of sustainability that they felt comfortable with. We were thinking, shall we focus on these two? But I'm going to pass on to the next one. I'll go back and forth because as I'm talking, I'm kind of changing the order. No? But we did think that education per se, which is an SDG number 4, I don't have it here because basically it affects each of them, no? All and each of them. So how could we, that we were a university, focus only on one SDG when we could impact all of them through education, no? So that's also the challenge was that we did think that sustainability, as was understood by the non-sophisticated public, let's say, was a very simplistic concept of sustainability. And we really needed to dig deep to understand and to see how all of the students could profit from a higher level of knowledge on sustainability. So basically what we decided to do, which afterwards I jump quickly there because I can be talking forever about this also. So yeah, if you see I'm extending, please say, hey, hurry up. So we did want to analyze what was our impact in the environment as individuals and as a university, and also that this reflection was something that each student considered when analyzing any challenge or situation. So what is our impact in the environment? The E, what is our impact in the people, individuals, social impact, or as communities, which is societal impact, both are important. What's the interrelation between each of them, no? And how one another can never be analyzed individually. And another big important metric was what are the rules that define the situation, no? The governance. It can be politics, policies, legislation, directives, no, depending if we're talking, it could be my own rules. As a person, I have my own rules, no? So considering that is something very complex, extremely complex, that we couldn't simplify it and give a sense of what we call now greenwashing, because we really wanted to embed everything, the culture, into sustainability. What we decided was to do a whole transformation, and we call it the 10-year challenge, okay? So basically we said, okay, we're in 2020, we're looking ahead for this new 10 years to the 2020-2030 agenda. The 2030 as the Sustainable Development Goals is when we should be achieving them. Let's go for one challenge per year. The goals are going to be and are being around environment, social, or governance issues. And one of the main objectives is, one, to put a little bit of order into what we do, okay? So we cannot tackle everything at the same time. And on top of putting a little bit of order, by changing the challenge, we can increase the complexity of the conversation. So for example, last year was around responsible consumption. So it was around climate action, waste, plastics, and so on, which is something everyone understands and it's kind of easy. Afterwards, I'll run a little bit into that. Sorry, I'm checking my phone so that I don't.
Don't worry. If anything, I'll give you a shout.
Thank you.
You're good.
and this year we have been talking about social issues and how we respond to them as a community, and how this also makes us stronger. We work in around 4 main axes. That's teaching. Teaching is, of course, what we all do, but basically teaching and researching, depending on the university, each will do more or less of one another. And there are 2 ways of introducing teaching. One is that sustainability can be like a new lens, how you incorporate sustainability into whatever you teach. Of course, there are some courses which you cannot incorporate sustainability when you are defining a method. Well, it's a method, so there's nothing to do there. But yes, when you talk about strategy, supply chains, operations, design, recycling, of course, but I mean finance, control, there are many ways in which you can introduce sustainability through examples, through putting the students to work in projects around sustainability related topic or challenge. And well, that's like having sustainability distributed into all of the curriculum, okay? And this is not something that happens from one day to another. It will take time, okay? So if in 2019, we had around 1,800 hours of sustainability related content. Now that I'm retrieving data, and I'm sorry I cannot share it today because I don't have it, but I'm sure we've multiplied by around 10, that number. So this is something that's happening gradually. And there are also, of course, new pathways, and that's for people that need to have a higher rate of specialization on sustainability because they want to dedicate their life, their professional life to sustainability, okay? But as it's part of, we see it in the news, the new regulations, also the feeling of the people, they want to see sustainability. They want to see that we care about the people and the planet, no? So I guess gradually it will have to be everywhere. Research, why is it important? Because this way you get facts and you spread the word and you generate more awareness. So for us, it's crucial that our researchers focus also on sustainability. As an institution, we need to incorporate also these metrics and walk the talk, no? It's fine to say, you have to do this. No, how can I do it also? And it's part of the messaging that we want to give. Stop thinking, how are the governments and the UN going to solve the problem of sustainability? And do an internal reflection and say, how can I contribute as an individual, but also as part of a wider community that can be, I don't know, my work or even my neighborhood community, whatever, no? So a little bit of activism from each of us. I think this message of the activism is clearer now with the COVID, no? Because before it's someone else's problem. No, you have to stay at home. No, I know you want to go out, but you have to stay. Here it's kind of the same, no? I know you want to do it differently, but really this is the path you should follow. Well, and then also the partnerships, not reinventing the wheel one and over again. You know, let's work together. Let's partner with experts. Let's learn from one another. I think that that's also a very important message and a strategy for us. So, well, here, I don't know. So yeah, you have to, afterwards we can share this so that I don't have to go into the details, but basically these are kind of goals that we set ourselves for. You know, the first year, of course, it was going to be easy to achieve these big numbers. Now our numbers are like a reduction in a 0. whatever percent in energy consumption. The first year, let's say that you make a higher jump, but later on, when you've already tried to put everything, the protocols in place to do best practices, improvement goes in tiny steps, okay? So these numbers do look like amazing, and I can share with you a number. For example, paper consumption, we've gone from 33 tons on 2019 to 600 kilos this year, okay? Yes, so, but the jump is big, but now really, can you reduce those 600 kilos? I don't think we can, because it's an important learning tool. I need to write down things sometimes, okay? But it's part of the process, like being realistic in what is it that you can do. So, for example, part of the activities we did around responsible consumption was like generating the awareness, basically removing printers, which really helped. And we have some printers, but they are hidden. So if you want to print, you won't find them easy. So you really, really want to print, have to print, then you go and look for them, no? So, I mean, trying to nudge through the right pathways and disincentive the ones, the actions we don't want. And well, we worked around that, and I think it was successful, and we all needed kind of a change in the mindset and in the behavior. But it's difficult, of course, changing behaviors. This year, we wanted to work around a social challenge and generating a strong community, and also including these social activities, kind of what Manchester University does, social activities into the curriculum, but also into the leisure time of our students through their clubs or through the campus life activities. That's like the non-academic part of the university. It has been very successful, and this is something we know because we put a lot of metrics in place. We have a software, and we defined KPIs, which are widespread across the university, from admissions to administration, legal counsel, of course, all of the schools, canteens. So we have metrics everywhere, and they hate us in this. They hate the sustainability office because we are following them all the time. Please upload your data, please. But really, metrics help you see the whole picture, identify where is it I'm doing good, where am I lacking maybe information, or I have to put a process in place, and well, that's important. Also, it's important for reporting. By law in Spain, we need to report non-financial reporting together with our financial data. All companies above 250 employees need to report based on GRIs. Well, you can report based on SDGs or GRIs. So we have our public reports in our web, and we don't just write what we do. We put numbers because we have them, and that's, I think, that's a solid thing because you see. These are some of the metrics from 2020. That's from the year we do school years. So it's from September to August, and these are some of the metrics we have. I mean, it goes from press releases on opinion articles to changing our faucets, reduction in paper consumption, I don't know, office supplies, hours of teaching.
This is a very important slide. This is almost like something I want to print and put on the wall.
Yes. Well, they say that people tell me that I don't know how to communicate because I cannot share so many numbers, but I like to show them. No, I'm joking. But yes, of course. And this happens because it's part of the whole university, like working, no? How can I increase this or improve or whatever, no? And this is, I think when you see also data is not like blah, blah, blah. Hey, I did a great job. Not me, I mean, each of the responsible, the people responsible for each of these metrics feel like it makes them feel that they work for something. This year, the how to measure social impact is much more difficult. There are tons of articles written around on how to put a metric on that. It's not like we forget responsible consumption, it's here. And then we're adding the social part of sustainability. And next year, I cannot tell you the challenge because it's a surprise until January, but it will be probably around, again, back to the environment, no? And then I think it's also very important to communicate, because through communication, people learn what others are doing. So kind of you're setting an example, and people like that their jobs and what they do is highlighted. When I say community, by the way, it's students, staff, faculty, and alumni. Okay, so that it's like a broad community. And many times we do things with our neighbors. For example, with that we have a hospital, if we work with a public library, or, you know, so it's like the wider community and the tight community. So we started with a newsletter of things that were happening, faculty members that were publishing or going to congresses and trying to make, extract them key messages, so that also there was an understanding of what was sustainability on top of recycling bottles, which everyone knows, but it's much more than that, no? And well, this is some of how we've communicated. We started like with the sustainable mindset, then the me, we, no? What I do is a reflection of who we are, which is kind of super creative, of the creative guys that did this. I mean, it wasn't me. When they showed me the MeWe, I was like, wow, but it's true. So what I do is a reflection of who my community is, no? So we're challenging each of them to be me and we, no? Well, and then we started also generating awareness on Instagram. That didn't work so well. And it really worked well, the faces of change, highlighting what people do in our community. This is during COVID times, and that's why it's in the phone, because we did the campaign and the recordings happened through the phone. So then we were sharing the stories, the faces of change, no? We wanted all of the participants of the university, everyone, to sign a pledge and like committing, no? And what do you pledge? And so that each year they would commit to a step further. The pledge thing hasn't worked as well as, I guess, the faces of change, no? Because people are like happy to see their colleagues there. And well, I mean, also translating metrics helps in the communication, so that you understand. If I talk in terms of CO2 emitted, it's a very complex thing. If I say we're saving 5 trees or 5,000, it's something much easier. So also the language. And well, basically, I've gone very quick, but I did want to take some time to talk and chat with you afterwards, and that you have the opportunity also of working. So for example, we say our community, be the change you want to see in the world. And part of the challenge is, hey, how do you think, or what's the easiest part or the first step to being the change in your institutions? And we were thinking that maybe that could be a right challenge to work around.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Isabel, for introduction. Perfect timing as well. And I think it's also quite a lot of food for thought. May I suggest we go back to this magic slide with the metrics? Because I think this is something, yes, this one, because this would give us quite a good idea, especially to the colleagues who are only, you know, at the beginning of introducing SDGs in their organizations. And we have a couple of minutes. I just wanted to check how two main questions. How did you define which goal, which SDG goal to start with? You know, when rolling out the 10 years plan, and if you can very briefly mention what was the main challenge internally within organization when you've introduced this new SDG strategy to the colleagues.
Okay, so the SDG we chose, we called it responsible consumption, but it basically responded to the survey we made.
So you ran like a pan-university survey, and then that was identified as the goal that resonated with most.
Yes, so the goal that most resonated was climate action. Plus, in our one-to-one conversations with lots of people, there was a feeling that recycling, how we use our resources, wasn't clear. adequately done. Okay, so that was the most common complaint I was receiving. Like when I talked, what is it you would like to do? Most people were thinking of this. And this is why we said, okay, it's SDG number 13, climate action, but it's also SDG number 12, sustainable consumption. We called it responsible consumption. Okay, I also think that you have to bring down the language to what we understand and translate those SDGs to your reality. Okay, so it was because of the survey and because of the one-to-one meetings that I was having. And that these are the three main goals we put ourselves to work in. And energy. I mean, energy could be shutting down computers. I didn't say that, but IT shuts down everyone's computer during the night and we save energy. It could be also turning off things when you go on holiday, purchasing energy. So there are many different metrics of sub-metrics to each of these goals. And that's why this comes out.
Thank you. And okay, maybe we will park my second question to the Q&A session. Now, would you like to give our lovely participants the challenge? So while you're thinking of framing the challenge, just a very quick update to those who have just joined us recently, not from the very beginning. The next 15 minutes, you will be invited to join one of our meeting rooms. There will be 3 meeting rooms. You'll be working in groups. And within this next 15 minutes, what we'll encourage you to do is very briefly, literally like 1 minute maximum, introduce yourself, your organization, or if you join in as an individual, as an SDG ambassador, say so. And then identify an SDG that you would love collectively to explore and introduce within your organizations and discuss the solutions that you feel will be, how shall I say, well, that you will be able to find the right balance between the energy and effort required to implement and the impact that these solutions will have on your organization and on your environment and beyond. Is this more or less in line with, Isabel, what we've discussed with the challenge you wanted to share?
Totally, yes. It was like, where do you think you can work? The quick win, because I think having a quick win is very important for motivation. So
Perfect.
what is your quick win SDG?
But also bearing in mind that it has to have a lasting impact. Now, I'm sharing in the chat link to the Padlet, and this is where you're all come working in the group. So each group will have its own tab. And within this tab, please put down the names of participants of your group, so we know who is within which group, and put notes, comments, ideas. And then after this 15 minutes finish, we will ask one of the group representatives to give us like a 5-minute elevator pitch on the SDG that you've picked up, and some suggestions and ideas, at least 3. Let's try aim at 3, nice number, that you would love to introduce. Okay, and if any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, and Isabella and myself will be drifting between the meeting rooms and assisting you there. So 1, 2, 3.
I'm going for a cable.
Okay.
I can't believe I lost connection.
And we are now in our meeting rooms.
Hello.
Okay, Isabel, now as a co-host, you will be able to see the meeting rooms at the bottom panel, and you'll be able to join them. Let me know if it works for you, okay?
Yes, so we are part of room 3, I think. So yeah, you and me.
Yes, but I will be joining room 1 and room 2 as well, because we want to see how the teams are doing. And I'll pause the recording for now because the meeting rooms are not being recorded. And I'll start the recording when we'll get together after the session. And we've got 15 minutes, so we'll be back at 2:20. Okay?
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. Hello, hello. Welcome back. And yeah, that were some really interesting discussions and insights. And I saw we had Petra joining us for just a little bit, and I wish you could stay with us for a little bit longer. She's
I think group 1 is not here.
Group 1 is not here. No, I closed all the groups, and they should be back in here. No, I can see Bahadir is here.
Okay, yes, they're coming back.
Yeah, so maybe they kind of disconnected and will be connecting shortly. Right. So while we're waiting, yes, you're right. I can see some of the. Oh no, everybody is back here now. So who would like to share your thoughts from group number 1? And I'll share the screen so that we can see your notes. And or you can go to the Padlet yourself and see them there. Okay. Do you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so who's talking on behalf of group number 1? Lena?
I would
George?
start, and the group, please
jump
in. So
okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah, we were talking about SDG number 10, which is reducing inequality. That's where we started on talking about selection principles for the both student body and admissions and candidate selection. We were talking about salary audits to make sure that equity is in place, equal benefits for mothers, fathers, for example, this kind of things. Then we were talking about educational initiatives on diversity, educating people why diversity matters, access for scholarships for underrepresented and underprivileged groups, why equality is important, special programs, for integration programs for different groups that might be underrepresented, access to education for all, policies on inclusive culture, and change initiatives in order to change social environment. So we started with SDG number 10, but I believe that we also touched on a few other goals.
So talking about, say, seaside bearing, what you feel is from this list something that you can take away and say, okay, starting from tomorrow, this is what we're going to work on?
I can say that we can do more in terms of integration of different communities, because that's the field that's really huge. And we already work with refugees in Germany, for example. We work with women, like mothers who are returning to work. That's another community that requires love and attention. And we can definitely do more. So that's a great effort.
Thank you. Bahadir, from your part of the world, and I know that Sustainable Development Goals is not really it's very popular to talk about topic in Central Asia, but not that actionable one. What do you feel from this list is something that you can take to the rector tomorrow and say, let's do it?
That Guzal will help me to explain that. Guzal, did you join us? Guzal, did you hear?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm here.
So we're trying to adapt SDG 10 to Tiami, to Uzbek University. What do you think from the list here might be something that will work tomorrow?
Okay, as in our breakout rooms, we discussed about sustainable development goals between 16, 17, and 13. And of course, if talking about CDG 10 from the point of view of TME, we can say that we can develop several actions too. After Zoom meeting, we will talk with Vice Rector and send you our opinion as well.
Okay, I'll check you out on this one then. Thank you. And maybe last comment would be, well, two last comments would be great also to hear from George, because you're introducing not just one organization, but a network. What do you think is most impactful from the list? Is George with us? Okay, maybe not. Okay, any other comments from group number one?
I want to say one thing from group number one, which is it's common to any challenge we discuss, is that we were talking about social inequalities, and it was related to access to education. So it could have been SDG number 4 also. Just to point out that it's funny.
Well, they're all interconnected, right?
You go in circles.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, group number one. And group number 2, would anyone like to share the thoughts on SDG number 13? Fernande, Güzel, Ben, Ano, Denise?
I can feel a default responsibility falling on my shoulders.
Come on, Ben.
Yeah, so I mean, inevitably, we spent 70% of the time deciding which SDG to talk about, because partly because of that interconnectedness, and partly because that was part of the task. And we came down on SDG 13. There was an immediate acknowledgement that partnerships would almost certainly be a critical component of addressing any SDG-related problem, and therefore I think 17 is almost always there. In any context, and obviously climate action overlaps with life on the land and life below water and a variety of other SDGs across the piece. We spoke briefly about how institutions think about this, because there's been quite a lot of focus on institutions going green themselves, going carbon neutral, being able to certify in that kind of area. And whilst that's laudable and necessary, and many universities are not doing it quickly enough, the truth is that the biggest impact most universities can have is probably through the impact that their graduates have on the world. So how you build that sort of climate awareness and the necessary skill sets to take action into the curriculum. It's all very well if you're studying environmental sciences. You're obviously going to be talking about it there because it's a critical connection. But if you're studying chemistry or maths or business or computer science, how does climate affect your future, and how does your discipline interact with that? And what can universities do to give students a real sense of mindfulness and understanding of what the impact of their future actions and their leadership choices have on the world. So that was where we got to. So what we'd essentially managed to do was get our conversation to the point where we were about to get started having it. Because we pretty much, I think we were gravitating towards, okay, let's talk about how universities can really build that awareness into their curriculum and empower their students. And then the time's up. So we didn't get much further than that.
Sorry. Well, we can always reconnect later and probably involve even more people. But one question I wanted to actually ask Denise, because I know, it's all good and great when we talk about all these actionable activities in the countries with strong higher education systems, stable economy, etc. There are also other countries which don't have the same economic and political stability. Denise, on behalf of your universities, your national higher education system, what do you feel will be the most realistic to bring to the table to the rectors or to the minister and say, this is what we collectively think we as universities have to focus on?
Thank you for your question. And my opinion, the goal number 16 is very important because it's very important to build new institutions, to develop all steps to achieve SDGs. And now, unfortunately, we don't have all institutions to do it. That's why we need to start with goal
So
number.
the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And I would add there that I mean, we live in a common planet. So what I do in Spain affects what other people have, or the weather, or the people, I mean, in other countries. So having common laws, no, and organizations that serve as umbrella is also important there, no? So universities, we can be kind of that I don't know how to say, the motor, the educational,
The drivers, yeah.
the drivers, yes.
Thank you, Isabella. Absolutely agree.
I like that concept. Actually, we have to join forces.
But actually, I don't know much about the SDG 16. But for example, if we're talking about SDG 13, climate change, I welcome all of you to join the carbon literacy training that the UN Global Compact runs for free. And actually, it's an 8-week session for higher education professionals, and well, anyone can join, not just higher education professional. Anyone can join, and it's 8 weeks. Every Friday we spend 3 hours sharing toolkits, sharing frameworks, sharing different solutions which are tailored for universities and for organizations who care about climate change. But also I believe that SDG 13 is fundamental to all other SDGs. And one of the things, we have agreements with MIT, with Yale, they all give us their materials for free, and we share them with you guys so that you could, this train the trainer, educate the educator model, and then you become these agents of change. So if it's something of interest, just message me and I will bring you on board. I'll send you the links. And again, because it's under UN, so we do it for free and it's open to anyone who wants to join. Now, I'd like to thank everyone for the group contributions. What I think we're going to do, we'll put brief summaries. And if you would love to kind of stay in touch and maybe continue these dialogues later on, we can have, yes, Tiami, thank you. Guzela, I'll send you afterwards then. I'm happy to get together in, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks and see what are the actionable activities that you can present to your universities. And I'm happy to share the toolkits that we have at QS World Merit and also at UN Global Compact, the carbon literacy group. Now, back to Isabella. If would it be okay for you to give us like 10 more minutes for Q&As? Because I've got some messages sent to me from Facebook from people who couldn't join us today to ask and then share with them. And one of the first questions was, what arguments do you use to persuade the most conservative colleagues that SDG is not bluff and fluff, but it's something that actually matters? And I know there is no one recipe, but maybe, just like some general recommendations.
I don't know. I'm very respectful with the timings of each of us. So we don't all come from the different background. We all come from different backgrounds and cultures, and are therefore more or less open to certain new changes and trends, let's say. I guess there's like a society pushing, so it's not Isabela or the Sustainability Office. It's everyone is willing to see and that their legacy, that their footprint is something that really matters and makes sense, no? And that we are contributing to a better world. So I guess that those of everywhere there are people that don't want to join. give them time.
Okay, so it's actually, this tells me that the starting point, even if the enthusiast, the SDG ambassador is within the university, but it's also the social campaign and awareness, it plays an important role in this. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
it's
you.
like, I guess it's what has happened always with anything that's about tolerance. It's like when people speak out loud and they feel empowered, when you join a new job and you are capable of raising your hand and saying, I don't like how we do things here. And it's part of a culture, no, and giving ownership to each of us and moving.
Well, it's a part of culture, but also part of awareness. And in some countries, it might not be the case. Ben, I see you've unmuted. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to sort of follow on from that, because not just in this context, but in a number of other contexts recently, whether or not we're talking about Brexit or anti-vaxxers or, take your pick. What happens is that if we're not more assertive than that, you end up talking to the people who already are on board and not talking to the people that are disinterested and disengaged. You run a session like this, and all the people who turn up are the already enlightened, and they get a little bit more enlightened and a little bit more informed and a little bit more superior to everybody who didn't turn up. And you create this sort of chasm, and how you bridge that gap between the educated and the ignorant in any debate. Because and in these days with social media, where people gravitate towards people who agree with them, it's a really difficult challenge. And when we look at some of these SDG things, it's not enough to wait for them to engage. It's not enough to just let them alone until they finally realize that there's something important to discuss or do. So how we overcome that inertia is a really big part of the problem, because the general narrative is we're not doing enough quick enough. And that's because moving those who don't want to be moved, we're all being a bit too nice and gentle about it.
Well, I would say there's policy there, and that's what's changing. Basically, things are going from voluntary to mandatory, and that's when change happens. No?
But I would agree with the. Oh, what?
I have a real problem with that, because it's true, obviously. When you make something mandatory, everybody does it because they have to, but they never make anything mandatory until enough people want it to be so. It's like, you want to make electric cars the norm, and there are all sorts of mixed problems with that. Let's not go into the debate about whether or not there are environmental problems with whatever kind of car you drive. But if you want to make electric cars grow, the law doesn't happen until enough people start buying electric cars that policy begins to build up, and this weight of opinion makes it not an unpopular policy, and therefore a 4-year, 5-year elected government are prepared to lay in the policy to do what the leaders were doing 5 and 10 years ago.
But this exactly leads us to the situation where we need to educate the generations of future leaders. So it's not so much a chicken egg. Well, it is a kind of chicken egg situation, that you educate the educators educate the future leaders, and that's how the change starts. Now, I'm very wary of the time, and we already took extra time of Isabela's time. Any questions from our lovely participants? And I see that Numan joined us very, very late, unfortunately, but still welcome. Is there anything that we'd like to ask Isabela to comment on or to expand on? So, while you reflect on this, these slides will be shared with all the participants. And also, what I would hugely appreciate, if those of us who left here, if you could very quickly type in this little form, it's like less than 1 minute, just to let us know how we can make it better next time. And do we have any questions? I think it was quite, yes, an email, if Isabela doesn't mind. There you go, very practical request, I agree. Now, I would love to thank Guzal, Denise, Numan, Kumar Sawami, apologies for pronunciation, Anusha Misa, Igor, Yelena, and all the others who were with us today. We'll share the outcomes and observations in our group on LinkedIn and also on QS World Merit Groups. And yeah, and hopefully we'll reconnect again in a couple of weeks or maybe in a couple of months to see if there are any practical tools that you would like us to dwell a little bit more on, or maybe if you want to have a brainstorming session, how to introduce SDG strategy in, I don't know, Eastern European universities or in pharmaceutical companies. Isabela, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your slides. I really loved that one, the multiple indicators. This is the metrics that's, you know, I want to study more myself. And
thank you. Thanks to you, and to you as well, Merit.
Well, we're trying to educate the educators and generate the new SDG ambassadors. So hopefully with your help and with help of other leaders, we'll get there. Thank you everyone so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Isabela.
Thank you.